Oh, okay.
Honourable David Seymour.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I rise on behalf of ACT in support of this 4-year term bill. And I want to start by conceding that I suspect we're on a hiding for nothing when this bill goes to referendum. And the simple reason is that this is a time when around the world people's trust in politicians is in decline, and yet what people will see is politicians asking to be trusted for an extra year. I think that's why it's on a hiding to nothing. But I'm proud to be supporting it, and I'm proud to have had some involvement in the creation of this bill, because I believe it is the right thing to do for New Zealand. And I'm thinking about a time when I'm not a politician, perhaps when the voters have retired me, and I'll be living my life, and I would rather live in a New Zealand with a longer parliamentary term. And the simplest reason for that is that I believe we need more stability. We're an outlier globally. There's about 180 countries that have some form of parliament. We're one of 9 that has a 3-year electoral term. And it's not just 3 years to 4, because as Paul Goldsmith mentioned, with election campaigns and the bedding in and establishment of new governments, 3 years is really 2 of effective debate and policy making and thinking. So if we go to 4 years in total, we're really going from an effective 2 years to an effective 3 years. It's not a 33% increase, it's a 50% increase in the effective length of a government. And I think that's critical for reasons that other members have touched on, from as parties as diverse as the National Party and the Greens, have said, actually, we need to give more stability for developing things like infrastructure, for making policies, and giving people confidence, whether they're from inside New Zealand or outside New Zealand, that this is a place with a stable policy environment to invest in. In many ways, it is about our maturity as a country. I think our current constitutional setup could perhaps unkindly be described as a sort of teenage setup. We have no upper house, we have no states or provinces, we have no written constitution. What we have is this 3-year term, and it leads to erratic lawmaking. But there's a second part to this proposal which I think is important, and that's why I've called it in the past a 4-year term with a twist. It also involves changing the way that this place operates to be slower, more accountable, more sober, and ultimately a better place to make laws with more participation from all of the people in this chamber, not just those who are ministers. And that change is simply to ensure that most of the time the opposition will be running the select committees, the smaller versions of Parliament, that scrutinise new laws, that call in public officials to hold them accountable, that can run inquiries. That will be run by opposition, while the government will still have a majority in this chamber and make the ultimate laws. And the effects of that, I believe, will give more voice to New Zealanders through their elected representatives, because select committees, and committee of the whole House stages for that matter, will be more of a contest, with more debate about policy, with more voice. I believe it will also improve the esteem of parliamentarians, because in some countries, to be a member of Parliament is a very respectable thing. Here people really want to become a minister. I think having backbench MPs with more power in this place will actually be good for the esteem of the profession and ultimately the quality and competence of people who join it. No offence to anyone currently here. I think that if we're prepared to have a mature discussion about this change, then we will lead ourselves to a place where we have a more stable policy environment, a higher quality of debate, people feeling that their voices are heard better through stronger select committees, more trust in our democracy, and ultimately the progression of what might be called a teenage constitutional country into maybe just a young adult with a bit more surety and confidence in itself, more stability, more investment, more infrastructure, higher wages, and ultimately a country that we can be even prouder of. I'm glad so many parties are supporting this bill, and I look forward to supporting it further. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
And he can't even sit there and stick to his time. But, I mean, here's an example of what David Seymour could mention opposition control with twist. The 2020 general election, it was a 78-seat majority. Under David Seymour's proposed plan, based on the number of ministers that were in there, which was 26, I'll just go get the calculator out, but if we, 120 minus 26.
I can guess the answer right now. Shit don't add up. That's your answer.
Yeah. So put it this way: with a 40, so you'd basically with 94 non-executive seats, you would still have a government majority on those select committees under that particular election scenario. Which, okay, that's unusual what happened, but that you could sit there and go, you know, just an idea, and let's sit there and say that was in place and could have got a 4-year term and would have sat down there and, you know, and had help with the Greens to sit there and do that. So for 4 years, controlled the select committees, just turned them into glorified rubber stamps because of their supermajority and sit there and do it. But also at the same time, like as David Seymour has done on bills he has been the minister for, truncated select committee processes don't slow down Parliament. Yeah, you going to get rid of truncated select committee processes? Or are they going to keep happening? And if they're going to keep happening, you're not slowing down Parliament.
I mean, there's a severe lack of evidence. Again, people, I recommend you read the regulatory impact statement. There is a lack of evidence that extending the term under the style of democracy with a lack of an upper house, right, is going to improve stability. In fact, the regulatory impact statement kind of suggests the opposite, that under a variable term of Parliament, the maximum term could fluctuate from election to election. Voters will not have long-term certainty about how often they will be able to hold the government to account. That's pretty important in a democracy, isn't it?
Yes.
Moreover, prior to each general election, there would be uncertainty about the length of the upcoming parliamentary term. Voters may therefore struggle to make an informed choice at general elections. People could also become less engaged in the democratic process. So that statement tells me that, one, for whatever reason, he's still talking about bloody teenagers, considering the ACT Party's history of teenagers, but also he hasn't read the regulatory impact statement.
Now, here's something useful to sit and look at. So I'll just go on to shared screen here. I am currently on the Australian Parliament's website. Now, take a look here. They've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 Senate committees, which would be the equivalent of select committees. We go down to the House of Representatives. They've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 select committees. And if we go there, they also have joint committees. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. So they, take a look at the number of committees there. Now, some of them will be subject committees, some of them will be specialist. We do not have that many committees in our parliament system. Now, okay, they do have 151 MPs and they have 76 senators in their federal parliament. So, yes, they do have a lot more people there. But you sit there and take a look at that. Like, they have a more robust system. Now, I'm not sure if a bill that has gone through the House, gets shifted to the Senate and goes through first reading, whether it goes through another 6-month select committee process in Australia, it might go through a quicker committee process. But the fact is that you've got the handbrake at the Senate. And I mean, that has been evident before with many different pieces of legislation where they got held up at the Senate. And in some cases, they forced the country to have double dissolution.
So what you're trying to tell me is that David Seymour wants to be like a shittier version of Australia,
without the actual select committees in place to do it.
Yeah.
Ultimately, it's a disenfranchisement by stealth policy.
Yeah, because that's the
Yeah.
Okay.
Because
You know what's found funny about David Seymour's speech? He was like, "Trust me, but don't trust me, bro. Therefore, let's have longer terms." I'm like, dude, you just the opening to that speech just said, "Hey, no one trusts me, but let's have 4-year terms." I'm just like, dude.
Yeah, it's like, oh, trust me, I'm a bad taxi driver, but jump in my cab.
Yeah, I'll get you to your destination. Destination fucked.
Thanks for watching. Make sure you're subscribed to our Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, Instagram, TikTok, News Guide, The Order Paper Podcast. YouTube, Twitch, Instagram, TikTok, News Guide, The Order Paper Podcast.